Here's a quote just for this episode. You must be ready to burn yourself in your own flame. How could you rise anew if you have not first become ashes? Friedrich Nietzsche. This episode 20 of New Year's Eve Lollapalooza 2025 on the Culture Matters podcast is about what the New Year's Eve Lollapalooza is all about, why it exists, where it came from. We just celebrated our third New Year's Eve Lollapalooza 2025. Before I explain what New Year's Eve Lollapalooza is, I want to explain why we do it, why all of the time, energy, intention, or attention and intention has been invested in not only the Culture Matters podcast, but New Year's Eve Lollapalooza. Friedrich Nietzsche said, "He who has a why can bear almost any how." He who has a why can bear almost any how. When life gets hard, discipline breaks down without an aim. And choosing a word for the year helps us clarify our aim and has a relationship and helps us clarify our relationship with our past to draw on that energy, like pulling back a bow. We don't just need an arrow. We don't just need a bow and a string and a target. We need to pull that bow as far back as we can. And the relationship that we have with what came before us has a relationship with how much force is behind that bow when we let go and we let loose that force, that power towards that target. Choosing a word is part of putting together the pieces of that bow. And is giving power to the force behind whatever vehicle, whatever tool, whether that's a work of art or a business or a musical piece or whatever we're working towards as individuals. We need force. We need an aim. We need the tools. We need the vehicle. And words clarify our why. Soren Kierkegaard said, I've been trying to figure out how to pronounce that name for years. I think it's I, so Soren Kierkegaard. Soren Kierkegaard. Anyway, he said life can only be understood backwards, but must be lived forwards. So when I combine these three quotes, the one I shared in the intro about burning ourselves in our own flame, he who ha he who has a why can bear almost any how, right? Like the word is putting language to the why to help us stay disciplined when things get hard. So the structure of our endeavor doesn't break down, so that the people that are working alongside us can continue rowing in the same direction. We're all rowing in the same direction. And life can only be understood backwards, but must be lived forward. So that's pulling back the bow We have the aim. The language gives clarity to our aim as individuals and in a position of leadership and authority. Our people need to see that aim. So New Year's Eve Lollapalooza is about bringing prior guests on the Culture Matters podcast together to re-clarify our aim. Rule 2 in Beyond Order, 12 More Rules for Life by Dr. Jordan B. Peterson is imagine who you could be and aim single-mindedly at that. Imagine who you could be and aim single-mindedly at that. Rule 4 in book 2, 12 Rules for Life. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. The combination of those two rules from those two books is what New Year's Eve Lollapalooza is all about. It's putting action to these rules, to these philosophies. So a word becomes a bridge between reflection and action. A word becomes a bridge between reflection and action. We have our aim, we have our goal, we're drawing from the past, reflecting on the present based on our plan, and giving rise to the energy and the force behind our people as well. So we're all rowing in the same direction. That brings me to someone that I would like to pay homage to in 2026 that I just recently learned has been quietly behind the scenes picking a word of the year. See, we're in 3 years in the New Year's Eve Lollapalooza. They have been picking a word of the year every year since 2004. I just learned this recently. So I want to pay homage to Patrick Bet David that I learned this as a consumer, as a customer, as a proud advocate of Manect platform. This is not sponsored. Patrick doesn't know that I'm bringing this up, but I recently learned that he's been choosing a word since 2004 every single year and investing time and energy and money in 4 to 10 events a year for 2 decades, putting in the work behind the scenes to re-clarify his aim. Now, what could be more inspiring than someone that's created as much value as Patrick to actually live out that philosophy? That's what New Year's Eve Lollapalooza is all about. The reason Connect matters is because it creates intentional dialogue. When we're part of the Connect community culture, we as consumers are investing into someone else, actually showing skin in the game that gets their attention, and now we have skin in the game that our intention, we're impelled to ask a better question, invest time in getting the quality answer. That it's creating the precondition for value to take place, of having an opportunity that we otherwise wouldn't have to be in front of someone that could impact our life with their words, with their thoughts, with based on their deeds. They have accomplished something to be invited on the platform. So I want to acknowledge this amazing community and technology that I actually was able to learn that Patrick was and has been choosing a word for since 2004. And what I learned through that surprised me actually. 2025 for Patrick was the year of surprises, and 2026 is the year of solving big problems. I actually wrote it down, words that are important to Patrick and his team impacting millions of people: speed, signal, product, beat your prior best. That reminds me of rule four from book one, 12 Rules for Life: speed, signal, product, and solving big problems. That's what I got to learn from that interaction with Patrick. And I would say that's not branding, that's leadership at scale. That's someone that is influencing those that influence, having thousands of people come together physically to learn and think and grow. Um, it's unbelievable. Nietzsche said, "A man of knowledge must be able to love his friends and hate his enemies." And I want to acknowledge someone that we paid tribute in 2025 to on the Culture Matters podcast, which was Charlie Kirk. We did a 12 episode series bringing guests on the show to share their experience and their uh, perspective of what Charlie represented to them. And I think what I took away from that series was, and why I want to pay respects to Charlie on our New Year's Eve Lollapalooza, because it embodies why we do this, is that when we embody the philosophy that we speak and teach, it creates trust and respect and honors all people, regardless of our differing views and beliefs. And Nietzsche said, a man of knowledge must be able to love his enemies and hate his friends. I believe that the example that each of us, all of the guests that showed up for the Culture Matters podcast, New Year's Eve Lollapalooza 2025, to share their word, all of you that are listening, Patrick, who I mentioned before, and the endless opportunity of subject matter experts that provide value through the Connect community, all of us that share our thoughts and through our words, when we live in congruence with our actions, when our actions back up what it is that we say in the public square, something that transcends all the content, all of the differing views and beliefs of how we inhabit this world, speaks to the soul of who we are. And that is why I share, and this is, I want to pay respect to Patrick again, is why I believe that when the tyrant dies, their reign ends, and when the martyr dies, their reign begins. The martyr, so Søren Kierkegaard said that the martyr is the person that lived a life of congruence with their words and their thoughts and their actions, which is the most terrifying thing, arguably, for a human being to do. And New Year's Eve Lollapalooza is about all of us sharing our word for the year and having that implicit accountability of all the guests that come together to maintain congruence between our aim, the force behind that that bowstring, that arrow, so that we could stay disciplined, so that we could stay disciplined and encourage when we have everything to lose. And I think that's why I have shared my respect and honor for Patrick today, because he said he was going to was going to share that quote on his show, and actually did, and acknowledged me for it. So that means that he did what he said he was going to do, and that could easily be overlooked, especially for someone that is created success in the sense that there is attention and many, many endless of others' intentions to take someone in that position away from their aim, away from their word, away from the commitments that they give to their speech, but to stay in congruent with those commitments and that word and those actions. It speaks volumes for character and demonstrates respect and honor and opportunity. And there's at some level, it's priceless action and effort that maybe at the deepest level is never paid for or returned, even in this world. New Year's Eve Lollapalooza. We had 58 guests on the Culture Matters podcast that had come back between 5 a.m. and 10 p.m. to share their word for the year, to reflect on the prior year and aim up together. We had 58 people that had been on the show before. You have to be on the show to come to New Year's Eve Lollapalooza. 17 different groups, 17 different podcasts created, curated in that day. My word for 2025 was intensity, and it was about reintegrating. It was about growth. My word for 2026 is love, which is about relational responsibility and bringing people together, the people that I have built real relationships with over my tenure as the founder of Culture Matters, the host of the Culture Matters podcast. Having the responsibility to bring relationships together. My word for 2026 is love. I challenge you to listen to the next episode, episode 21 on the Culture Matters podcast, which I'm going to go through everyone's word that I wrote down for 2026 and speak to each what I learned from that day. And we're going to continue aiming up together. And I hope this increases the likelihood of you clarifying your word, your aim. If you're not on Connect, I can promise you this is not a sponsored episode. I am someone that believes in the platform, believes in the communication, the community, and um, the opportunity to be more intentional with relationships. I would get on that app. Please share this with a friend. Leave us a review on the Culture Matters podcast and go listen to episode 21 in our New Year's Eve Lollapalooza. And we will see you next time. That's the next episode right after this.